Less than a week from now, election officials will start tallying the votes to decide who will lead Saskatchewan for the next 4 years. To get a better sense of how voters are feeling heading in, we once again partnered with Insightrix to survey a group of Saskatchewan voters. CTV's Cole Davenport joins us now to break down the poll numbers. And Cole, what are some of the key takeaways from this?
Well, Lee, it appears the NDP has gained some momentum in Saskatchewan's provincial election campaign. We're also seeing a big drop in the number of undecided voters since we last checked in back in September through our first partnership with Insightrix. So if we take a look at some of the graphs on how things have gone so far, you can see that the Saskatchewan Party and the NDP among decided voters were basically in a tie up until the last week or so. And this poll was conducted with 802 people that are reflective of Saskatchewan's general population. And they have since locked in their decision, more and more people, because back in September we had 33% of people saying that they were undecided voters. Now it's down to just 21%. So overall we have seen that narrow down as the decision date gets a little closer for people and people are thinking more seriously about what they want to do this election cycle.
And how about by region? What are we looking at? We know how critical some of these rural votes are, especially for the NDP, if they have any chance to unseat the Saskatchewan Party.
Absolutely, you know, and looking at decided voters in those different regions of the province, north and south are the rural regions with a cutoff that's, if you drew a line between about North Battleford and Melfort, you can see that the Saskatchewan Party does still have a lead in those rural areas with about 61% in the north and 54% in the south. But what's interesting is we've started to see a little bit of that other party support pop up in the south as well. So that's going to be something that we'll keep an eye on heading into election night. And it's especially interesting once we look at time for change. We talked about this back in our September poll as well. This time we have it by region. So you can see that in the north and south regions, there is actually that appetite for change, with close to half of people saying that it is time for a change in government in Saskatchewan. Of course, you see that skews a lot higher in the cities, so you keep that in mind. But it is another interesting thing to look at. But again, just because there's that attitude for change doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to translate directly into support for the NDP come election night.
So with all that in mind, looking at these numbers and the interest we've seen in this election, could this all translate into a higher vote turnout than, say, we've seen in the last 2 or 3 elections?
Well, that's what Election Saskatchewan is certainly hoping for. What we're seeing from this set of poll results is that about 78% of people said they absolutely intended to vote. Another 12% of people said they were very likely, with just about 9 or 10% unsure or definitely not planning to vote. Whether that translates fully, tough to say. But compared to the last few elections, it's been in the 50% in terms of turnout. In 2020, it was 52.9, and the highest voter turnout that we've had since the start of the millennium has been in 2007 with 60%, 60.8 to be exact. So that's certainly a number that Election Saskatchewan hopes to at least get close to. And again, whether we see 78% turnout, that would be huge, but that's a lofty goal. But there is at least a sense that people are engaged in this election, potentially more than the last few.
You mentioned in 2007 was the 60%, the higher number. That was the time when we saw a change in government, so it'll be interesting to see if those numbers correlate to what we see on election night.
Exactly, and election week in the province is now open with polls available every day now through October 28th, one exception being Sunday, October 27th.
All right, thanks, Cole, for this. Cole Davenport giving us all the details on this exclusive polling data. You can find it online, ctvnewsregina.ca.